What's up, you guys? Welcome back to One Official AR. It's been a while, but I took some time to do a lot of work that is behind the scenes, and we're back with some tutorials. This tutorial in particular talks about a very fun gadget to use, which is called Mocopi. Gadget from Sony is quite interesting because it allows you to easily body track yourself. The 6 sensors only can really allow you to have a seamless way to track yourself. And we did an integration with Spectacles. I just want to say that this particular implementation doesn't have anything to do with Sony. There is no partnership. This is just for fun. So the credits goes, of course, to Sony, which is the maker of this amazing product. It's just called Mocopi. If you go on the website, you will see a lot of resources. I actually recommend you to go through a video. It really tells you everything you need to know in terms of like setting things up for you, also without spectacles. So you kind of get an understanding of what's the potential of these kit. You must also know that this kit comes in 2 flavors. The first one is the, let's say, the normal default version, which is around $450. And then there is an additional version, which is the Pro version, which is basically the same thing, but doubled. So you have 12 sensor instead of 6. We won't go through that setup right now, but for that specific setup, you will need XYN Motion Studio instead of having your own mobile application to do the setup for you. It's very easy to set up. I'm not going to repeat what is exactly going on in this video. I highly recommend you to watch this first. But let's come to us, right? Let's come to Spectacles. So how are we going to integrate Spectacles with Mocopi? There is going to be a first part of this tutorial, which is going to be a little more a little more about the theory behind this. And then the second part of the video is going to be about definitely like hands-on on the device and on Spectacles finally. I also prepared, of course, a project for you, and you will also find on the asset library our Mocopi plugin for you to play with. So if you go on our page here for the WebSocket, you will see that we have a quite like a short documentation, and believe me, better this way because you don't want to make things too difficult. And you will takes you like really 10 minutes to go through the script and understand how it works. This socket like has different events. This is the open events. This is the send events. And then we have on message events. And then we have on close events and on error events. So these are all of the events that WebSocket allows you to create. But also, if you're not familiar with this topic, we're gonna go a little bit back, and please feel free to skip if you just want to go directly to the Mocopi implementation. But we always like to educate beside to do cool stuff. So I'm just gonna go through a kind of guide that I put together, and shout out also to my coworker Nick Ross that he really pushed it a lot on the hardware for a lot of different devices, a lot of different protocols during the MIT hackathon. It happened some weeks ago. So this documentation is definitely a lot inspired by that. So Sony Mocopi Spectacles. So we already told you that there is 2 versions. There is the base version with 6 sensors that works with the mobile app, and then we have the Pro version with 6x2 sensors that works with the desktop app, which, for my understanding, also just works on Windows, and this tutorial won't be on Windows, so just so you know. Highly recommended this video, which I already shared with you. And then what can I say about this product? This is amazing. And there is already a lot of documentation available for this device. So just so you know, what we did in this plugin was definitely highly inspired by the Mocopi receiver plugin from Unity. So I'm going to just like shout out to whoever put this together. Actually, let's just go on this page and take a look for a second. We have Satoshi Yokozawa here that doesn't know this file, but I guess like it's all the Sony team that put this together. This was instrumental for me to understand how to plug things in, especially talking about avatar and avatar rigging and whatever is the way we need to rig and maybe swap new characters. Then there are other game engines like Unreal, Motion Builder, and VTube Studio. I'm not too familiar, to be honest, but if you want to go and dig into it, that would be amazing for you to understand all this stuff. There is a lot to cover, so I'm just going to go pretty straight to the point. But you must know a little bit of things getting yourself into this project. What is an IMU? IMU is basically just a sensor. An inertial measurement unit is really, I'm reading here, an electronic device that measures and reports a body's specific force, angular rate, and so on and so on and so on. These are used mostly in things like VR headsets, smartphones, motion track game, and so that's perfect, of course, for the Mocopi. So Mocopi is really like a full body tracking solution, which allows you to use these little sensors here. So just take a look at these beauties. And then this sensor will be basically clipping to this other like holders, and this holder will be put across all of your body. You'll have one on your head, hands, down on your feet, and then one that is the one basically in the middle on the end of your spine. IMU, we also need to know what is a WebSocket. If going back to our documentation here, what is a WebSocket is really just a protocol for you to share data continuously in a more efficient way than something like HTTP, where you are constantly asking a question and receiving an answer. This is more of a continuous dialogue and allows you to create a lot of real-time cool application. How does that work? In our case, it's pretty simple. If we look at the API of Spectacles, great job, of course, the team that put all of these together at Snap. We can start defining the class, which is really defining the socket. So here you have like your component. We like to do everything in TypeScript. We try to adhere to this this language that we are promoting. I know that there is also JavaScript available, but it's just the way we work the most. You just reference the InternetModule, which is needed for you to access the internet. Then you declare your socket, and then you are ready pretty much to create a WebSocket connection. This is the way just to create the WebSocket that comes out from the InternetModule, and then you will need to do the binary type, which is blob. Why is it important? Because Spectacles really just use exclusively this format. And also to mention that Spectacles, in this case, always act like a client and not like a server. So in this case, we are connecting to an existing WebSocket server, which is what we are communicate with Spectacles. In this case, you see like how it works. I like to just go through things this way because it makes it very easy. Here we see that we have on open, and then the WebSocket basically is connected. You have this event, and you're just basically connecting to something. Then you're sending a text message, and this text message is basically propagated across the socket. It can be retrieved and read, and so on and so on and so on. Here, for example, we try to send a binary message, and then we print. Of course, we like also printing whatever we say, and we're sending things. So we can also do the same thing, but we can listen to messages. So here, for example, on message, if this event data is actually the instance of the format that we can actually retrieve, we can receive the binary message and also print it out. So we received a message. We can also listen for listening for other events. So long story short, basically you can send and receive messages in this sort of like common pool across two different entities. We can also go ahead and understand what's the UDP, because actually the Mocopi is not based on WebSocket. WebSocket is what we have on Spectacles, so is the API available on Spectacles. Actually, UDP is the User Datagram Protocol, which is one of the core communication protocols to send messages, but in packets. So what's the difference between these two things? This diagram actually explained it perfectly for you. I think it was super clear. So when you have like the TCP protocol, which is the one that we have on Spectacles, you have pretty much like a sender and receiver, which is, double side. You can go both ways, but there is always an arrival. And then after the arrival just like pings back. So there is always like, as you can see here, the sender send it here, and then we have a response. It's like a faster HTTP connection in a way. Instead here, we have like a lot of more responses happening at the same time. So what does that mean? It means that it's slightly less reliable, and there is not this concept of delivery guaranteed in the UDP versus actually the TCP. So in a way, TCP is used for more like web browsing, emails, and file transfer. So there is something that still requires speed, but there is already something more, it needs to be more stable, needs to be like more of a service. It's also in the other case, even here, we still have, of course, a service which needs to be reliable, but because we're sending so much data at the same time and we're really kind of like preferring speed versus result, we have like, for example, the live streaming, gaming, and so on and so on. So I think you got you got it, the core idea. You know, there is something that is more reliable, which is our WebSocket, and there is something that which is less reliable, but a lot faster, which is the protocol of the UDP. So without further ado, I think we understood a little bit what this is about. I also like to go through this because maybe we have so much in our APIs, and every part of these APIs is a completely different world. So I feel like it makes sense to just take a look 1 second at it and just say, okay, so this is what we're talking about, and this is how it works and why it works. Then if you're gonna go deeper into all of these concepts, this document will be available, and we have a lot more stuff related that is mostly what we've been doing at some previous hackathons and workshops that we've been working on. But yeah, so now we know what's the Sony Mocopi. Now we know what's the WebSocket and UDP protocol. And now let's get into Lens Studio and let's take a look at this new plugin or asset library pack, which which is already available, by the way, so you can also try it. But I feel like this version that I'm showing you is just a little bit more, let's say, complete, since I've been testing it a lot more with other. The main difference is not really that it doesn't work or doesn't work, does work and doesn't work. Is more like I've been experimenting a lot more with swapping avatars, and so I will also cover that workflow now. Because I thought it was a pretty interesting thing to do, and probably the first thing that everyone does after getting this template. So here, if you go in the asset library and you go in the spectacles section, you can go scrolling down a little bit. You scroll down and you will see the Mocopi receiver. Mocopi receiver, we have just one version because it's really the first one. And when you install it, you will get your package here in this location. Now, for the sake of my experimentation here, I've been unpacking it. Highly not recommend to do that. I know that I did this, but it's because really I just was modifying things locally. The intention is just to repack it again and never, and I'm really like actively working on the package that will be reshared. So that's why it's unpacked. But honestly, we do not recommend to unpack packages, because what happens is that we just update them, and then you want to pull an update from the library, which is something that you can do when you do this, right? When you just like push update to library, or then you do this, you can pull update from library. You usually have this icon here, and you can see that there is something else coming up in the library. So you want to get it. So please don't do that if eventually you play with this Mocopi receiver. Rather, just duplicate the script. So what would you do? Probably, for example, here, you just get the script and you just like duplicate it. You just Control-C, Control-V in your asset folder. If that is not enough, my suggestion is to open this in Finder, make a copy of this package, unzip it, and then modify the script and then use it in the assets. So you would really separate the two things. I know this is probably a lot to take, but just please do that. It's a best practice that we highly encourage. So going back to the Mocopi example, you have basically this prefab that does everything for you. You have only one script, which is the prefab placement, and is really just the same thing of, it's a very similar thing from the surface placement. So as you can see here, I've been just copy the surface placement, but I did not unpack the surface placement. This is also another good practice that I'm just really showing you. We do this. When you will open, by the way, this package, you will find a lot of information. So please read and disable everything. But the first thing you want to do is just see if this thing is working, right? So in the prefab placement, you can just like place this avatar. Of course, it won't work because we need to do something else. We need to do a number of things. So the first thing we need to do is understanding that we need to run a server, which will be the bridge between Spectacles and eventually Lens Studio, or Lens Studio and the Mocopi. You can see right now my screen. I will be editing this video in a way that you can clearly see it. I'm going to start to do motion capture, and then it says preparing to connect. I'm going to confirm, and then I'm going to say okay, and next. And then I will need to pair the sensor. The first time that you will do this, and once again, mentioning that Sony video of the Quickstart guide, you will need to go through here and one by one, just like connecting the sensor. But once you did that, it will be very easy just to set them up. And I also want to show you that sometimes I don't get them right away. So I'm not sure if during this tutorial I will get them only once, but usually what I do is like I go to the previous step again, and then I go next again, and then I do connect sensor. So now they're all on my table. They need to be like steadily on the table, and they need to be not connected to the battery. So see, this was pretty fast. Sometimes I'm not that lucky, but maybe for this tutorial I was. So here you see that I'm not connecting this to the battery. There is a little bit of a USB-C port here in the back, and I'm not connecting this to the battery. I just like connect all of the sensor and I do confirm. Then now the step number 2 is to make sure that you are positioning all of these sensor on top of these kind of like connectors. All right, so finally I have all of the sensor on my body. Now something we will need to do is the calibration. So whenever you do the calibration, you need to set up your height, and then you need to stand up straight and start the calibration. So just for the sake of doing for real all the steps, so you see actually what I'm going through. This one you put it here in the back, like this, and then we start the calibration. There is something quite smart for the calibration. You will need to keep your hands down, so that's why it vibrates instead of or makes sound instead of just telling you what to do. So when you just start the calibration, then it just vibrates and you just do one step ahead. Now I just do steps, so it's gonna be failed. Let's try again. So recalibrate, start calibration. And now it's vibrating, so do one step forward, stay straight. And this time it's successful. So you will see the avatar, which is me. This is the base avatar the Mocopi gives you. You can also change some avatar. You can put the human in, which is also a base avatar. Now that we saw that everything works on the app, the first test we want to run is really just trying to understand if things are working in Lens Studio. So for letting things work in Lens Studio, we need to go on the avatars that we have at the beginning, which is the Mocopi basic avatar. And then if we collapse it, we see the major 3 scripts that are handling everything. So the first one, which is the main controller, is just a reference for the avatar controller, which is here, and the WebSocket client. The avatar controller instead is just whatever controls the avatar, and it's just referencing the prefab placement, which is in the main scene. And then we have the Mocopi WebSocket client, which is the main thing we need to modify. We will need to modify this number. This number is your IP address. You can get it in many ways. You can get it with a command line, or you can get it just looking through your settings. My suggestion for finding the IP address, which must be the probably more reliable, is really using the commands. So ipconfig get address, and we should get this address from our command line. You're going to have like a placeholder URL. So you see that mine is matching there. And this is another thing that you will need to keep track. And we are testing now on the local server. So this is the first thing that we're going to try. We go on the app again, and we go on settings. We see that we find external service connection. And then here there is your IP address. Ensure that our phone is on the same connection, of course, of the other device, on the same Wi-Fi of the other device that we are syncing things. As I mentioned, once you inserted your IP address in both Lens Studio for now, which will be the same because we will be building on Spectacles, and then we also insert the same IP address in the Mocopi app on our iPhone or Android. We will need to start spinning the server from here. So if you go in our guide, you will find also if you go in our guide, you will find exactly the same command that you will need to run, which is this. And then this will start to install things, and then we'll run the server. So now it says waiting for WebSocket clients on port 8080. Now, the only thing that is missing is started to stream data. So I'm going to go back on my Mocopi app, and you notice that the avatar is already synced. Now I'm sitting, so it's in a weird position. I might recalibrate because I didn't use it for a while, But what you need to make sure is that this third icon from the second icon from the right, which is here, it says send, and we are also on the motion, option between the two tabs at the top. So now that you are in these options and we have everything set up, when we'll press on this green button at the bottom of the screen, theoretically we should start to stream data from the Mocopi app to Lens Studio. So now I'm going to press and start transferring things from the app. So now I pressed the bottom green, the bottom of the screen, and you will see that more or less, maybe we'll need to recalibrate a little bit of things if it's pretty accurate in the movement that it's doing. I think recalibration actually really helps a lot. There is also another option, which is reset, which is stand up and reset. Now you see that things are reset and a lot more clear, and I can mirror and do things with my hand. I can sit, and you will see that the avatar more or less is really following what I do. My legs, I don't need to worry about anything because I have sensor attached to my body, so I can also go anytime and anywhere I want. So you see that things are also matching on the app. Okay, amazing. So this is working on the Lens Studio side of things, and really the way it works on Spectacles is really the same exact thing. I'm going to do a video on Spectacles in a little bit because I want to show you first, another thing that you can do in terms of swapping the avatar. So swapping the avatar, it's not that simple as it seems, especially if you don't have like a background as a 3D modeler or 3D artist or technical artist in a platform like Blender or something else that might do the same thing. So in this case, what I want to show you is something that I already put together for you. Very top there, we have this folder called Blender, avatar models, and we have Blender files. The avatar models is like a collection of the avatar that comes, first of all, this is the basic avatar that is coming from the Unity plugin, which is also the one in the Mocopi application. Just want to make sure this is also crediting the work of others that put this together. So these are open source things we found online. So of course we are crediting everything in there. But the issue with that model particularly is that it was actually a ASCII extension file, which naturally Blender does not import. Just going on this website and downloading the whole SDK for Mac, and with some AI magic, making a plugin for turning an FBX ASCII file into FBX. I'm pretty sure that Blender might have some plugins for that does that already. I'm not too familiar with the platform, but it worked. So, and you will find in our folder here the avatar, which is not only converted in FBX, but also in different series of FBX for Blender. So my suggestion is just using what you have here because it worked for me. And here you will find the Mocopi avatar FBX binary that you can import into Blender, just to have a reference of the rigging structure that will be applied to any other character that you want to import. I did two tests. The first test was with a random avatar that I found on Mixamo. So if you go on Mixamo, which is a very popular animation platform, now part of Adobe, you can just go here and look for a bunch of animation, but I really didn't need animation. I just needed a model. So if you go on characters, you can just find different characters, and that's what I downloaded. But you might find characters anywhere, also on other platforms like Sketchfab or whatever. As long as they are in T-pose, I think we're good. And then I did another test with the avatar from Sony. So Sony also allows you to download all of their example that they have on the mobile app. That page for doing this is, I believe, here. So this page particularly, we will be linking all of these, of course, in the guide. Allows you really to download all of the plugins and allows you to download all of the Rhinos Chan avatar examples. So these are all the format. The thing is that there is not an FBX of these particular models. So what I have to do, I have to turn a VRM format into FBX. And also for that, There is fortunately a plugin in Blender that allows you to do that. And when you install it, you are able to import FBX. So even that will be in the guide, but I'm just going to open Blender for a second just to show you the minimum requirements to get this done. So this is, I would say, maybe let's start with the new. These are the Blender files that are already done for you. This was for the Mixamo avatar, and this was the Sony avatar. This is really the same process across these two models. So I'm gonna just do an example here, just opening Blender and show you what I mean. This was my previous file. As you can see, there is the avatar from Mixamo, and it's being rigged with the human reference. But let's just open a new file. So I guess general. When you open a new file in Blender, this is what you should see. And the first thing you want to do is just getting these three guys out of the way. That's going to delete this. Then you have your collection is free. Then what you want to do is importing the FBX from our folders, FBX number 6. We imported it, and now we can also zoom in here, like we're zooming with the pad. We can move like this, and we see that this is the first avatar which is working properly in the plugin in the example. So our goal is really getting rid of this mesh and just use another mesh with the same rigging. What are we doing here? So we are importing, of course, our second FBX basic one. Now we're going to import this new one, which is straight out of Mixamo. So we see there is a lot of mismatches. So first of all, this second avatar is rigged. And so we have two rigs in the same scene, which is not good. So what we will need to do is to delete the armature. We will need to delete this. And you will notice that the moment that you delete the armature, this model becomes gigantic. And now what you need to do also is to select the model itself, go on this section, and making sure you go on object data properties, and you make sure in this vertex group that all of these are deleted. So you delete all groups. This will remove basically every vertex group that was saved before into the model. Then the second step is to understand that we need to match the two things together before to export. How to do that? Well, in this case, it's easy because there is just one mesh. If there is another mesh, you can always create, I think you can create something that is called plane axis, and then you can pair all of those models into the plane axis. So I'm just telling you this because I've been through a little bit on this, and I learned something new for sure. But just so you know, you can actually parent things together and move multiple objects together. If you have a lot of these, you know, let's say that you have, instead of one of these, you have like 30, you can do this, Shift A. And then after Shift A, you get this empty plane axis. And when you have this plane axis, you select both of these, for example, this guy and this guy for last. And then you do this again, Control A, no, Command P, sorry. And then you do object keep transform, and that will parent them together. We're not doing this now because, thank God, there is just one mesh in my geometry here. So, but that's not important. What we're going to do now is getting this model and make it match with this armature. So what we're going to do is to click S, and this would allow us to scale. So let's scale it as much as we can. We can just start with this distance for now. And then we can also do, again, just to scale it down again. It's very sensitive, at least for me. Then when we zoom in, it becomes a little better. Then what we want to do is rotate. So we're going to just tap R. And then we're going to put the X, which is the axis of rotation. And then we're going to put 90, which is along the axis, which is how much we are rotating. Then we're going to put our model at the front view. And then we're going to S again, which is scale. And then we're going to match it like this. Now we're going to make sure that everything matches more or less. You might be, I think this is where you might eventually become a very good technical artist and make things move incredibly good when you import it in Inland Studio. I don't think this is the focus of this tutorial because there is a lot more going on and more how to use Blender. You will have all the time to do it. So now things match pretty well. And what we want to do is go on our old human reference and delete these mesh. So we delete this one, and now we are ready for both the poses to be matching together. I believe we also need to delete these modifiers. We don't need these guys. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we just have the plain mesh, basically, of our new model, and then we have the plain rigging of our reference model. In this case, what we're gonna do, we're gonna just like select this guy and go on pose mode. Now we're in pose mode, and we're gonna select our human low root. So this is the root of the model. Then we're gonna select our new model together. Then now you're gonna go here and you're gonna click Ctrl P, and then you're gonna set the parent to armature the form with automatic weights. This is the easiest way to get things running. By the way, you can do things with custom weights, and I'm not aware how to do that, so I'm just gonna go with the easiest option. Now we parent things together, and you're going to have the confirmation that things work because you're still in pose mode. And if you eventually click on one of these and you go on rotation, the rotation should be responsive in the mesh. So you notice how things are stretching across this model. So I guess the difference between a proper technical artist setup and mine is really avoiding this sort of discrepancies. So you can put weights, you can add weights across all the models, and you can just map things perfectly here. But this workflow will work in terms of the main T-pose mapping. So I just wanted to guide you through the basics of doing this because from here, there is just improvement. This is just like a basic setup. So when you're done, you're going to select your human v3 variant 2, and then you're going to do export. You're going to do FBX. You're going to just select copy here because it's going to keep the information of the textures. And if the textures are not available, no worries, because you can still reassign them on the same material when you are in Lens Studio. And then you're going to make sure that here we have this off, actually, add leaf bones. I've been running into some issues with this on. Maybe you don't, but that was my concern. Append a final bone to the end of the chain to specify last bone. Use this when you intend to edit the armature from the export data. I don't think we need this. So you export this, you call it whatever you want. And then we are exporting it somewhere. That's it. So this is the flow to make your own custom avatar. So now what I'm going to showcase here and demonstrate is the fact that you can have in the prefab placement another prefab, which is in this case the thing that we just did now. So you just import with the fold option. You will see some warnings. If everything goes away, we are good for now. And then one thing we want to do is to unpack for editing. And you notice that here I lost my texture, even if I click the option to maintain the textures. So what I recommend is that whenever you download a file, make sure you have also the texture file. This will be very easy to set up. You will just go here and you go into base texture, and then you will assign the texture. I exactly did that myself. So if you go actually here, there is the same, I did the same thing, but I just, I went through the same setup. And if you notice, my two materials, which I have here, are with this texture that, by the way, are given when you are buying or downloading a model from the internet, usually from a lot of different platforms. So as long as you have these, you're pretty much fine. You're just gonna use them in the material, and you might have a lot more material. This also happened in the same avatar that I used from Sony. Actually, I had to convert multiple times that avatar because it was a VRM. Talking of VRM, this is the way you find that extension. I think it's in preferences, and you go into get extension. So when you get extension, you're gonna get the VRM format. You're just gonna click VRM here. And once you install it, which is already installed for me, you will be able to import VRM. And you can just drag and drop in the scene your avatar. Now, to demonstrate again that this is, don't worry about materials, just look at this. We're going to have the materials here, just add the texture. Because we already had that before, we can just like get, where is it? Avatar swap, Mixamo, and we can just get the texture here. And whenever you apply the texture, you're done. So just to make you feel okay about that, because I know that it's a big one. And the same thing happens with actually the other part. So I think it's the same texture. Yes, should be the same. Okay, so now we have all the texture figured out. What you will need to do is get in these 3 scripts, which are also part of the basic avatar. This WebSocket client avatar controller to create your own new personalized avatar. You're gonna go here in your whatever avatar, and you're gonna unlink it from prefab temporarily. You're gonna just click on this parent and paste these 3 scripts inside of this parent. Now make sure that everything is set. So we also still have the prefab placement set up, like it is a reference in the scene. And now we have it. And what we're gonna do, we're just gonna bring in the assets and call it whatever. We have a multiple here. Let me make sure that we are not doing any mess. I think what we have is this. Let me make sure, because I don't want, okay. This is the one that I exported, so I don't get confused. This is the one that I exported. In fact, if we double click on it, we see these 3 scripts here. So whenever you have this done, you can just go back into your example. We can delete this one from the scene, and you can just swap the avatar with this. Now we apply to our main example, and we should be able now, we will be able to send data and see our new avatar that starts to act like it should. You notice something though. You notice that maybe some parts of the avatar are not that perfect, because that it's really up to the Blender side of things. But you notice that the main movement are matching. So this is the right way to rig it. It's just that the mesh needs to have a lot more adjustment in terms of weights. You see the eyes goes everywhere, which is funny. But because I wanted to test this multiple times and making sure that this was actually the real good flow to follow for you, I actually did it again. And I did it again with the avatar from Sony. So indeed, this avatar works a lot better than the other one, because I feel like the mesh is being really created for that sort of rigging, which we also experience in the base avatar. So now we apply again and do the same exact thing. So because I already prepared that avatar, so it has the same 3 scripts. And now we see that there is the avatar there, which is, in my opinion, a lot more defined than the one that we have. We can also make sure every time that we do this that we reset in the app. And when you reset in the app, usually the avatar like reset the position, and it's a lot more, it's kind of like in front of you and makes a lot more sense. So now you have the avatar that is working and so on and so on. Right, sending the lens, no cable needed. Lens is sent. Make sure that your project settings is in experimental API. Make you see what I see. You notice that there is a 1-to-1 movement. Based on your internet connection, you might have some delay. But pretty much, we are done. We demonstrated that this works. I guess, let's say the biggest improvement we can have, I believe, is really from the Blender side of things. Avatar is huge. You notice that there is also something in the material on the eyes. Probably there is some improvement that could be done there in terms of geometry. Becomes mostly like a geometry problem. And I hope you have fun trying this with the Mocopi. Overall, this setup might require you just a little bit of time understanding how it works initially. Thanks so much for taking a look at this tutorial. I thought it was a lot of fun to really understand how to use the Mocopi. It seems like just a start or something that could be a lot more. We know how hard it is tracking, body tracking, generally just with the camera. So I think the sensor comes super handy. And I would love to see also this sensor to be used in many other ways that are unexpected or outside of the, the scope of the Mocopi sensors. By the way, side note, there is also body mesh available for spectacles. This is nothing to deal with the sensors, but if you try body mesh, and there will be soon an asset library which will make it easy for you. So I'm just like previewing it here. You will be able also to track the body mesh just with the camera from the spectacles. So exciting things in terms of body tracking happening. I hope you have fun with Mocopi. It was great spending time with you. See you next time.